Minute there. We are live. We are live. It is Friday and we are all alive and we're happy to be here. It is Friday, the 6th day of January, my favorite month of the year because it is my birth month and my birthday was a few days ago. I am happy to be here. I'm happy about life. I don't like what's going on in the world right now with this virus thing. It's really, pardon my French, it's effed up. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of uncertainty going on in the world. I'm booked to go out to South by Southwest next week, and I think I'm going to have to cancel it, Tab. It's not sitting well with me.
Yeah, no, I see conference after conference being canceled right now and schools being closed, and it's craziness. I don't know.
Yeah, it's absolute insanity right now. And I mean, people have a reason to be concerned. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, and the amount of time it goes from people actually getting sick, getting diagnosed the right way, and the information getting where it needs to go. It's too much time, and I think that's one of the big problems here. So let's switch gears, and we're gonna change it up a little bit. And welcome to the podcast live, everybody. We have a very special show, but let me introduce my co-host for today on this awesome collaboration episode, Tabitha Cavanagh, Tab the Recruiter. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Thanks to you, I have a brand new camera, and we shouldn't have any issues. Knock on wood, right? As I say that, but I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
It's weird. I know my hat is straight, but on the camera, my hat looks twisted. Like I could look at my hat, and I know the brim is fine, but the camera makes it look weird. I don't know.
I agree. We're just gonna roll with it. The camera is messing with me. I'm like moving opposite. I have to get used to it.
I love it. And just so everyone knows, I'm wearing my double letter today. And thank you for Tab and Scott and everybody over there for hooking me up with all this awesome swag. Swag is great. It's a great promotional tool. So I'm wearing my People Over Everything shirt. I absolutely love it. I'm wearing my company letters here, NHP. And if for those of you who don't know, those are my daughter Nina's initials. I named my company after my daughter. She's my North Star. She's the reason I do everything that I do. And every time I look at my email address, every time I look at my hat, every time I look at my business card, it's just another reminder for me about why I do what I do. And one of the things that Tab and I have in common is we genuinely care about people. Yes, we are recruiters and we get paid for our services. Because listen, we got to put food on our table and feed our kids. But we really genuinely like to help people. And that's what Tab and I, when we came up with this concept for the show, is what we want to do. We want to give back and use this LinkedIn Live platform to help people. So we're going to do something pretty cool and new today. We have two awesome folks that have volunteered and reached out and said, hey, I want to come on and tell you about what's happening in my career search, what's working, what's not working. And Tab and I are going to give them real-time, live, actionable feedback. Tab, are you ready?
I'm ready. I love this because it gives us a chance to do what we do every single day, but kind of in front of anyone else who wants to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. So you never know what's going to happen. Every call is different, but here we go. I'm excited.
Oh, I had my mute button on. Sorry, here you go.
I was like, I can't hear you.
I was saying, everybody, for those of you, I like to mute my button when I drink water because this microphone, literally, you'll hear me gulping, and it's not a very pleasant user experience. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring on our first guest, Christine. We're going to hopefully everything works here. Let's try it out there. Christine.
Hi, everyone.
Christine, welcome to the Pause and Tabcast, as I'm going to call it today.
I like it.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm a long-time subscriber, and so.
Well, thanks for joining us and being a brave soul to go along with our wacky ideas.
We're going to talk about that. So Christine, welcome to the show. Let's just do a couple of vital signs first to help set the stage here. Where do you live? Where are you located?
I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Awesome. Nice. Toronto's a great city. Little clean New York, as I like to call it. How's the lake effect snow treating you this year?
Oh gosh, every day is different. Like one day it'll feel like spring, the next day it'll feel like winter. So it's kind of hard to predict the weather.
I know it's been an absolutely crazy winter. So let's set the stage. And I don't know how Tab likes to do her initial calls with candidates, but one thing I like to do, instead of having candidates give me their whole chronological resume, I like to try to evoke hopefully an elevator pitch from them. I like to see how they present themselves. I like to see how they carry themselves. So I'm going to ask you what I ask all my candidates. Tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do best, and what you're looking for.
Okay, so I'm a human resources professional located in the Greater Toronto area. I have about 3 years of concentrated progressive experience. I've worked in financial services, public sector, and broader public sector. Before this, I worked for about 7 years in marketing and communications, both in executive and lower level roles as well. And I think one thing that I would say I do really well is that I love communicating with people. I like getting to know people. I like learning their story and their narrative and seeing how I can help them achieve their goals through whichever in whichever way possible.
Oh,
Oh, we can't hear you.
are you muted again?
Oh my God, I'm
Oh
playing this mute game.
no.
I do that to try to avoid background
I'm
noise. So Christine,
surprised it's not me this time.
no, it's me. It's crazy. We're trying it out here. So, Christine, I'm taking a look at your LinkedIn profile. Actually, we'll pause there for 1 second. So, talk to us a little bit about where you're at in your career search. It looks like if I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile, you were a coordinator on a contract role at Capital One that lasted 3 months. Right before that, you had another contract role at Canada Post. So these are all contract roles. Are you looking for a full-time role, or are you looking for another freelance contract role?
My goal now is full time, and I think it's because over time I've worked with larger and larger teams, and I feel confident to take on an HR generalist role because I feel like now I have that baseline administrative HR experience, so I'm definitely willing to take it up to the next level.
Tab, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people kind of switch back and forth between contracting and full-time employment. So it's good to kind of, for that, it's really great to have that narrative right in place and to be able to kind of explain that transition and why you were thinking. So I'd love to hear a bit more about kind of that transition for you and why you're looking to really make that change and kind of how you would pose that to a future employer.
Those are really good questions. So, my main purpose for making the transition into a full-time permanent role is that I'm a lot older now, and obviously, I want to have a job where I can accumulate benefits and um, contribute to a team more long term. Obviously, it's great working on contracts, being able to explore a variety of industries and workplace climates. But I think now in my career, I'm ready to make a more long term commitment to an employer. And I think how my action plan for that is by going to networking events, talking to industry leaders, um, having courage and um, faith in myself to know that I have a voice that's worth listening to.
Mhm.
And I think it's getting me attention. Like I've received emails from companies in Chicago, New York, um, a financial institution here in Toronto who've all voiced interest. But I think it's my contracted history that kind of plays like that, buffer of hesitancy.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to break that.
Well, I think
yeah.
that's like all about perspective too. I mean, Adam, you can jump in here, but I think when you come from a contract role, there are so many ways to, and not that you should even have to spin it, but for the sake of this conversation, I'll just say, like, just to be able to spin that a bit and tell them what you learned at each contract. Because when you're with one company, you're typically learning like one cadence, one of everything versus
Well
being
said.
in a contract role and being like, I've been exposed to these kind of environments, these types of people. I mean, you've got your diversity there, you know, you've got all of these different things that I think you can really be able to help change their perspective on what contracting is versus just thinking, oh, she can only stay with the company for 3 months or something like that.
Right. And I would add on too, right? I mean, it's optics, right? It's optics, and it's also getting ahead of potential, like cutting it off at the head, right? Getting ahead of people asking, why have you worked contract roles? It's having a logical explanation for that, whether it has to, and this applies to anybody, whether it has to be life circumstance, or to Tab's point, which I really like. It's like, you know, I've been able to learn spinning it. Like, I've been able to learn lots of things from different organizations that I could take to my full-time job. I'm looking for an opportunity where I could, you know, settle in. I'm looking for security and stability. Talk to us a little bit about like where you're at in the search specifically. How far along with you are you with any interviews? Where are you hitting the wall? Are people receptive to your resume? Are you having any issues with your actual, you know, on-site face-to-face interviews? Like, where are you having hitting roadblocks and challenges?
So I think for me, it's more of getting that initial recognition. I have been contacted recently by a financial firm in the greater Chicago area. And at first, the reception was warm, but then I started to become ghosted by the representative at the company, and so that, you know, hurt a little bit, because it's like,
Of course.
I was really excited about the opportunity, and the representative had said you hit all the right buttons, and so I was just like, you know, doing my due diligence, following up, doing some additional research on the company, but you know, and I'd say, like, in an analogy, also in Toronto, I think it's that a lot of HR roles here tend to be contracted, and so finding that elusive, permanent, full-time role has been a challenge. I think one positive um, vantage point of all of this is that I was contacted from by another recruiter just this week, and she's like, I really love your resume, I love your profile, I love that it's diverse, and that you've worked with one of our competitors. And the roles that I had applied for were both filled in internally, but she essentially gave me the green light and said, hey, check back with me in a couple weeks, because we'll most likely have something that will fit your profile, and you don't have to go through the applications process. Just let me know if you are interested, whichever roles, send me a quick email and we'll follow up from there. So I guess what I want to know is, how do I get past that roadblock or being ghosted?
Yeah, the ghosting. And first, I will say that there is no excuse for ghosting. I mean, I could tell you that sometimes it's a volume game, and there's different levels of engagement. I mean, I sit on both sides. I sit in-house too, so I'm receiving resumes where I represent a company, and I make it it's a muscle memory where if I talk to someone or if I engage with them in an email, I'm going to close the loop on them. And I wish every other recruiter did that as well. There's a difference. Sometimes if people apply and you don't hear a response, I mean, that's just the nature of the game, and that's a volume thing. And that happens. I mean, that's just the nature of it's volume. It's a numbers game. How to avoid ghosting? I apply, and I'm going to coin it here because I have, it's Posner's 3 Ps. It's polite, patient, persistence, right? And I apply that to any type of job search. And it's follow-up, right? Follow-up shows that you have, you're taking the initiative, that you want the role as well, but you got to find the balance too, where literally you're not emailing him the very next day to ask where you are on the status. You kind of have to feel it out a little bit. I usually go for the 2 or 3 day rule. Never Friday at 4 o'clock, never Monday at 9 a.m. the first thing in the morning. Put yourself in their shoes, try to catch people at a good time, and just be direct. Don't be over apologizing, like, sorry to reach out, sorry. Like, stop saying sorry all the time and just say following up, being a little bit more direct about it, but certainly be polite. And I think people respect persistence, but don't sit back and just expect or wait for people to get back to you. In this day and age and in this world, you have to take control of your job search. Tab, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. So, when you're sending your email or communication, however you're trying to reach out, how would you do that if it was your actual job? So I like to tell people that, like, I'm in sales. So I tell salespeople, you're selling a product, a service, whatever it might be. Why are you not using those same ideas to sell yourself. So I would make sure first that when in your communication, you're thinking like you would think as a professional, not as a job seeker, if that makes sense. Because like Adam said, you might be more apologetic. Your tone might be different. Be confident, and also don't be afraid to just check in periodically with recruiters who you are trying to develop relationships with, and not just to say, hey, what do you have for me? But hey, actually, I wanted to introduce you to, John Smith, because I think he might ultimately be a great fit for your company. I wanted to kind of get that conversation going for y'all, even though it might be whatever position it might be for. So just thinking about, or maybe you saw an article or something that caught your attention and it was related to a job you're looking for, send the article and say, hey, if maybe this would help you in XYZ way, and just like help them connect the dots, because let me tell you, the easier you make their job, the more they're going to remember you.
That's fantastic advice right there. And it's very underrated. I mean, people really talk about it. It's that value add. I think I maybe did it very early on in my career where I would follow up. I took advice of somebody, following up with a current events article with your point of view on it, saying, hey, I'm sure you guys are busy, anxiously waiting. But in the meantime, I just saw this industry relevant article. Here's my point of view. And David, who's joining us in a little bit, he made a great point too. Referring additional candidates, and that's an interesting one. David, I agree with you. Referring additional candidates after you maybe got passed on. Interesting thoughts on referring candidates while you're in the job hunt in that role. Tab, what are your thoughts on that? That's a double-edged sword right there.
Well, obviously, you don't want to be referring people that we're going to take your potential
jobs
that position. But I would say, I mean, you do have to be careful there, because if you don't really know the person, then obviously that's going to come back on you and make you look maybe not so hot. So I would say,
and just to clarify there, I don't mean to, Dave was saying for other people's jobs. I'm just making sure we're talking about that.
Perfect. Obvious. I mean, that seems obvious, but hey, just throwing it out there.
But even then too, what if you refer somebody? I mean, you have to be confident the person that you're referring is awesome. That's exactly what I mean by the double edge there. Yeah.
Well, that comes with a whole background of things. I mean, you need to make sure that person is A, even interested, B, that they're qualified, and why. And, really at that point, what you're doing is just trying to be a facilitator. You're not trying to take them through the whole process. You're just trying to say, hey, while I'm interviewing for this, getting to know your company, I've actually thought of someone who I also thought might be a good fit, and I know that they're selectively looking. So I just wanted to make the introduction and let you guys take it from there. And that's really all you have to do. I can tell you, if somebody, referred someone to me when I had to fill multiple positions, and if they were a good fit, I mean, shoot, I would remember that, and that would be a huge plus in my book. Lots of brownie points.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to another thing that you spoke about earlier, Christine, is networking and events, and I think that's an absolutely tremendous opportunity, especially in HR. I mean, I can think offhand of 10 events in your industry, and you're in a big market. You're in like the largest metropolitan city in your entire country there, and there has to be associations and networking events and meetups and everything. That is golden. There's nothing better than a human to human contact and referral within the same industry. I mean, that's how I get my business. That's how I get a lot of my candidates. It's actually being there and showing up. So I want to make sure that we give ample time to David. Christine, any additional questions that you want to bounce off of Tab and I?
I would say maybe what are some like concentrated steps that someone in a similar position as I am can take?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. The last part kind of broke up.
It got cut off.
Oh, sorry. What are some concentrated steps that someone in a similar position as I am can take?
Adam, you want to take it? Or what are some steps concentrated steps that someone in her position could be taking?
I think that it's a combination of daily, it's a lot of micro actions too. It's a mindset approach when I talk about the job search, and I say this all the time, and it's cliche as hell, but being in a job search is more work than an actual job. It takes dedication, it takes focus, it takes consistency, it takes follow up. It's ensuring that your messaging is aligned, ensuring that you're tracking jobs, you're following up, you know where your resume is out there, that your LinkedIn profile matches your resume. Also, another piece as well, and this is really critical. There's a lot of back channeling. Let's peel back the curtain here. There's a lot of back channeling that happens in talent and HR, and I could speak to it firsthand. And it's not a shady practice at all. It's really like, hey, what do you think about? I used to work with Tab. Someone comes to me and says, hey, Tab applied for a role at my company. I see you used to work with her. What are your thoughts about Tab? That happens all day long. I get messages all day. So maybe reaching out to some of your contacts at other companies and not being like, hey, I'm on the job market in case somebody says something, but it's more of like, hey, just to check in with those people so you're top of mind. So if someone does back channel them, A, you know where you stand, and B, again, you're top of mind with them when that referral comes in. Tab, you have anything to add there?
Well, to add to that point, I mean, you're on a live podcast right now, so I'm hoping that it's okay for this to be public knowledge. But
I hope so.
People are like ashamed, or I don't know what the word might be that would explain how people feel when they're job searching, especially when it's taking longer than they would have hoped. I would say make sure everyone knows that you're job searching. At this point, like, it's out there, it's public. Don't be afraid to tell your friends, your neighbors, your whoever you talk to, because you never, I swear this always happens to me. Someone will tell me something, and either like 2 hours later or the next day or the next week, somebody else, something will happen. It'll all come back like full circle. So that would be my first piece of advice. Definitely make sure people know, A, that you're looking, but B, kind of what you're looking for. And that's where, Adam, kind of take it back to the beginning. Do have like a 30-second elevator pitch for yourself. You know, for me, it would be that I help facilitate unlikely connections, and people will be like, wait, what does that mean? And then it gives, so A, I already know, they're curious. They want to find out more. Okay, what exactly does that mean? And then I get to go into a little bit more detail about what I do, what I'm interested in. So I would say making sure you're very clear on that message, which it sounds like you are. And that would be, I think that's huge.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
You so much for the wonderful advice.
And Christine, definitely please use this as a resource. You know, we're definitely connected now. Feel free to ping me or Tab with DMs if you have any questions along the way. We certainly greatly appreciate you and your time coming on the show and being an open book for us. And any way we can help you in return, please don't hesitate.
Yeah, thank you. Truly, any questions you think of after this? Yeah, message us, okay? Message me, ask us questions behind the scenes, because we really are an open book as well. And we want to be able to help people find what they really love to do and help them find their next opportunity. So
awesome.
Thank you very much.
Have a great weekend, Christine. Take care. Bye-bye. All right. So that was the first live caller on the Tab and Adam show, or we'll come up with some kind of funny name for this. And in the comments here, if you think that we're adding value, or if you want to be on the show, please feel free to reach out. I think Tab and I are, if this goes well, we're going to try to do it a little bit more frequently. I mean, that's what this live platform is for. It's to experiment, it's to try things. And ultimately, it's to help other people. Here, a couple of shout out. Gabriel, how you doing? Hajar, how's everything going? Mark Kelly.
Hey guys.
Ahmad, how you doing? We have a bunch of people logging in. I know it's Friday. I know it's a little bit tough for people to get away, but hopefully on the rebroadcast, everyone will be able to check it out. So we're going to bring on our next guest. We're going to bring on David, and here he is. David, Jack, welcome to the show, my man. You're on the Pause Tabcast live. How's it going?
Right. Hey, good to talk to you, Tab and Adam.
Hey, David.
Awesome. Welcome. So, Dave, why don't can I call you Dave? David, what do you prefer?
Either way is good. Usually Dave is best because it saves an extra syllable there.
I have no problem wasting words. I do it all day long. It's what us recruiters do for a living. We get paid by the syllable on our end. We get paid.
So rich.
Right. We get paid by the minute here. So Dave, where are we talking to today? Where are you located?
I'm in Richfield Springs. Actually, I'm in Cooperstown right now. Cooperstown, New York.
Okay.
Baseball Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm probably about half a mile away from the Hall of Fame right now.
Cool. And sorry, remind me again. Where's your hometown?
Richfield Springs. So that's around 8 miles north of here.
Got it. So you're in. I guess they call it upstate. Is that? That's, yeah. I guess it's upstate New York. I mean,
upstate,
it's so weird.
I mean,
it's one of those things too. I'm in Long Island, so I guess you kind of downstate, and anything literally north of the Bronx is considered upstate, which is absolutely absurd. I mean, I went to school in Buffalo, which is Western New York, and then you have people all the way up by the Canadian border. They're like, no, We are really upstate New York.
Yeah.
You are down middle state, whatever you want to call it. So we
Yeah.
we digress here. So David, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you coming on. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with Christine, just to level set here. Tell us as succinctly as possible. Tell us who you are, what you do best, and what you're looking for.
Yeah, as succinctly as possible, but I'm going to expand it a little more than that. So yeah,
Sure.
I've been in my career a lot longer than Christine has. So I've been doing IT work primarily since I guess it's been around 93 or so. So probably around the time Christine was born, or maybe around that. So been doing that type of work. I've been in a variety of roles. Some of them like delivery type of work on the post-sales consultant type of roles. Some of that with my own company, actually a very large portion of that through my own company. And then some of that additionally, or some of the other things that I interspersed those contract roles with were direct hire with several companies, some as a sales engineer, a couple of fairly large companies, and then also with some value-added reseller or system integrator companies as well.
Mm-hmm.
So both sides of the coin. And when I came over from working on as a contractor at some of these, like First Data was one of the places I was working at. So I came over working from them to a pre-sales role with a large manufacturing company, a large IT product manufacturing company. When I came to work for them, I called it moving over to the dark side. Some people call it that, whatever it's going to be. So I moved over to sales roles. And actually, in the past, let's say 10 years, it's kind of been a flip-flop between those two types of roles. And I find myself way more attracted to the, I got an alarm going off, way more attracted to the pre-sales roles, primarily because I am able to get involved in a lot more different customer problems, take a look at their like business issues and try to come up with technical solutions to address the bigger problems with them, and not kind of like fighting upstream the whole time, like it's been my experience on most of these contract roles. Go into the contract role, they have a specific set of things they want you to do. It's usually like this technical set of things, put out these particular fires, and then we'll see what we're going to do next. Or the contract ended. One of those two types of things. With the pre-sale types of roles that I've been in, it's been more, okay, we're going to go find these customers or find these other opportunities within these customers, and get to look at a wider variety of problems and not just fighting against the same type of problem or as many political issues the whole time.
Interesting. So just to kind of level set here, you're currently unemployed?
That's correct.
And are you active? How far along are you in any current job search? Where are you at?
I'd say I'm very active in it. I'm in like the second to third interview stage with, I think it's 4 companies right now. And
okay.
One of the things you were mentioning with Christine is something I need to do a little bit better on, is keeping like organized as far as what step I'm at with various companies. I'm starting to get confused at times doing that, but so it's been kind of frustrating because this process has been ongoing for a long time now. So I'm getting like pretty frustrated by a little bit of the ghosting experience that Christine was experiencing, but I found that more to be from some of the I don't know that it's really the right thing to call them recruiters, since you guys are probably the right definition of recruiters, and some of these other guys are we'll email something to somebody that has a keyword that hits one of the things in our job requirement.
Yeah, it's tough out there, and I think I just want to level set on a couple of things too here. The job search is tough. I mean, I went through a couple of long stretches in my career before I went into recruiting. When I was working in marketing and advertising, I was out of work for 6 months. At one point, I was out of work for 8 months. And there's nothing that tests you more than being out of work and you're draining your bank account and you're draining resources. Mm-hmm. And that affects you mentally. Of course it does. And you have to go back on those calluses that you've built up over your life and just know that you have the skill set, that you have the ability to do this. And the right opportunity is going to come, but you have to put yourself in your position to capitalize on those opportunities. And let's go back to organization for a little bit. I'm crazy. I'm OCD. And if you saw the spreadsheets I use for recruiting, it would blow your mind. And I'm not even going to pull it up on my screen right now. But think about ways to kind of track it, whatever monikers, whatever ways, devices that you have, whether it be an Excel sheet, whether it be a Google Doc, whether it be a freaking legal pad, and you're tracking each job where you're at. So you know who to follow up on, when that last point of contact was. You have to develop a system for that to stay organized. Otherwise, you're losing track and you're losing time. And going back to what we talked about with Christine, I mean, you have to own your job search process. You can't expect people to get back to you. You can't rely on it, and you can't count on that being the holy grail. So you have to take control of it yourself here. So where are you finding the challenge? Where are you hitting the wall? Is it moving things along in a process with a company and not hearing back as things take too long? And that shit happens all the time. Pardon my French, LinkedIn, but it's process paralysis. Companies take a long time. Hiring managers are out. People are out on vacations. They have other candidates. The role gets deprioritized. They don't get back to you. And I could keep talking like this all day long and making up excuses of why the job process sucks, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask you, where do you feel things are hitting the wall?
So I think some of it is a few of those topics that you mentioned there, like internal candidates coming up against that. In pre-sales roles, there's one of the biggest things I've come up against in pre-sales roles as far as competing against others is that somebody that's in a particular market might have significantly more contacts in that market than I do. So that's a big thing leading toward that candidate being a better choice, at least initially.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to jump in for one quick second here. 9 out of 10 times an internal candidate will beat an external candidate. Sure. It's a lot cheaper to give someone a little, 10, 12% bump versus bringing someone in at 15 to 20% more and training them and bringing them on board. Sure. Tab, what are your thoughts here? You're sitting here listening. I'm done talking. Let Tab bring some wisdom.
I'm done talking. Yeah, well, actually, I happen to work in this area. So, so it could potentially be your lucky day, but we will talk a little bit more offline about that. But sure. I do work in that space, so I'm a bit familiar. But what I like to tell people is kind of think about the things you can control, right? And it seems so, whatever, it might seem cliche or whatever, but when you're going through the job search process, there's so many things you could blame on other people, their situations, and obviously that's not going to end up getting you anywhere. So to your point about talking about your network and other people might have larger networks, obviously, you have said you've been in your career, for quite some time. So I would assume you probably know people as well. So I would ask you, how much are you keeping in touch with some of those other people, especially, right now, but also over the years in terms of, are you keeping in touch with old colleagues, old bosses, and how much networking are you doing now?
Well, I'd say that in the initial phases of this particular job search, I was doing significantly more of that. And at the moment, and in, say, the last half of this time of unemployment, I've kind of felt like I've maybe burned out some of those connections. So I'm kind of hesitant to reach back to some of those. One of the I'd say about last October, I was very far along in the process with a former employer. And that one is the one that actually went to an internal candidate that I was speaking of. So I think they made let's call it a good choice. I might have been another good choice, but they did it. They didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion. But
right. What are you doing to follow up with them? Is that a place that you really would want to return to?
This is a company that I would want to work for, and the hiring manager is somebody that I would definitely want to work for again. So in those ways, yes, that is some. I think I do need to do some additional follow up on that, and I have not done anything on that since probably at least a couple months ago. So yeah. That is a good suggestion to follow back with that. And that the hiring manager actually did mention that he felt as though he was going to have additional headcount availability sometime this year.
Because you never know, and Adam, let me just say this really fast. You never know when they make that hire internally, what is going to happen with that position. That person might move up to this, or I don't know if it was a promotion or not, but that person might move over into this role and it might not be a good fit. They might move into the role and they might decide that they just want to quit altogether. You never know. And that could happen day one. That could happen, and maybe not with an internal candidate. I guess it still could, but sometimes people don't show up on their first day. So sure. You literally never know.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, exactly. We've all seen it. We've seen crazy things happen. So being in touch with that person, knowing the pulse of what's going on, and then tracking that along the way, obviously patiently persistent, right? But keeping in touch and doing some of the things we mentioned earlier, which I don't want to repeat the same advice because I want to try to give different advice for you and for everybody listening as well. But that might be something that you want to do.
Okay. And Dave, something we haven't talked about, and I mentioned a little bit with Christine, is making sure that your LinkedIn profile is optimized as well. And I'm taking a quick look at yours, and I am not a professional looking at LinkedIn profiles. I mean, there's plenty of people that do that really well. You have a good objective here right underneath your headline. Maybe something a little bit more actionable for the specific type of jobs, maybe job titles you're looking for. In the about section, a little bit of an eye chart, just thinking about, I'm not reading it thoroughly all the way here, but just thinking about like how to best organize it from someone else's perspective, looking at it. And I'll tell you something from my recruiter standpoint, and I think Tab would agree with me. 99% of the time I'm looking up somebody's LinkedIn profile either right after I look at a resume or I looked at their profile first before I look at their resume. So two things, and this is just general advice for everybody. Mm-hmm. Have your resume and your LinkedIn profile chronologically synced up. Yeah. Because a lot of times it's not really your fault because some people aren't as active as we are. We're literally 23 hours a day on LinkedIn. But, some people just don't update it because they're not on that frequently. If I looked at my wife's page, she has old jobs on there. I'm like, babe, come on, fix it. But these are things that, especially if you're in a job search, to be cognizant about. Dave, you have a pretty big following. You have almost 8,000 followers here. How are you utilizing your network? Are you spending time to dig into your network for referrals, references, asking people who they know? 8,000 connections is way above average on this platform. How are you using LinkedIn to optimize your job search?
I am not. Let's say I'm not using it in any effective way, that's for sure. And it was incredibly effective on one of my previous job searches. I don't know that it was because of whatever number of connections I had, but I had one important connection to a guy that I had worked with in the past, and I changed my status on LinkedIn, and I was, let's say, driving from Chicago toward Denver. And I said something on there that, hey, I'm looking for opportunities around the Denver area. And he called me when I was on the way and said, hey, stop by my place in Omaha on the way. Let's talk and see about if you want a job with the company he was with. So yeah,
and I'll tell you, that works. I'll tell you this. I see that you're actively posting, and I see that you're sharing a lot of thoughts about the coronavirus and things going on here. That you're looking for a job. You're promoting our show too. I'm just trying to think the relevance of the articles that you're sharing versus your objective right now. I think you should put some time into writing a long form article on thought leadership, something that you're an expert in, and then developing a couple of short form paragraphs about it so you could use it to promote it. And then doing some very, very mindful light tagging of people, of companies that you may want to be at so they see the attention there. And then trying to use that as an engagement tool. Trying to draw attention and not like shouting it, but you're putting it out there, it's a billboard so people could come who drive by and see it to see that you're a thought leader. Tab, what are your thoughts? I'm looking at his profile here. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I wanted to say this. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying here, what are your thoughts when people put seeking new opportunities in a headline?
So hang on, it's hard to do this at the same time. I want to see really fast.
Sorry, and Andy, while we're pausing for a second, a couple of quick shout outs here. And Andy, write in the comments here. What do you mean about open hiring? I just want to elaborate to make sure we're on the same page so we can answer you correctly. Raymond, welcome to the show. My boy Sean Hervey, Herv Dog, Hodger, Dr. D, Brian Durick. Just urging everybody about colon cancer, and we're going to talk about that at the end of the show for a couple of minutes. I want to certainly wrap up the show with that, so we'll put a pin in that one, Tab. But let's talk about where Tab was going on this one.
Where was Tab going? So I encourage people to create a target list, right? So think about the places that you would want to work for, and I won't ask you to list them now, but kind of rhetorically, are there places in your brain that kind of pop up that you're like, oh, you know what? I think I'd really like to work there. So start there. Whether it's because of their culture, the amount of travel, because let's say some other people that work there, whatever it might be, whatever your primary motivators are, make sure that those are aligning with what you think a company to be. Of course, you never know sometimes until you get in there and start interviewing. And sometimes it's smoke and mirrors, and sometimes it's not. It's easier if you know people within, behind closed doors. So I would say start doing that. And then within each targeted company, find 3 to 5 people at that company that you can be reaching out to and connecting with on LinkedIn. So sending a personalized connection request to each of these people, letting them know, why you're reaching out, and then go where they are. If they're active on LinkedIn, start showing up. And I know it sounds kind of stalkerish, but if you do it the right way, it's not. You just start showing up where they are, and they're talking about some of the things that maybe you're interested in or that you want to be talking about as well. So kind of like reverse tagging. I don't know what you'd call it other than just being where they are and adding value where they are, and be kind of immersing yourself in a similar circle of where they like to run, because that's when people start to notice you, and they notice, I meet people all the time in the comments section. Just because I gave my I won't call it expert advice, but whether I gave my advice, I gave a suggestion, I gave just my opinion on something, and then other people will see that and they'll want to naturally just reach out because it resonates with them.
Right.
So I would say those are definitely some things that you could be doing. And in addition to what Adam said as well, posting about what start and searching hashtags of keywords of things that belong in your business space. And so then you're finding other people and other content that are under those hashtags or those keywords. So those are just some things that I even do. If I want to see some different things on sales leadership, I'll go up and type in sales leadership. I will start seeing a whole slew of content, and I'll meet new people that way as well. So it's pretty useful. And I'll Boolean logic, write that down, and we can talk about it later. But Boolean logic is a really great way too. If you don't know what it is, it's a really great way to help conduct your job search and, also find new content. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, this is really good. And what's any specific like tactical questions we could try to help you out with?
Well, let's say early on in this job search, I was trying to be more regionally specific. So I only wanted things that were, let's say, close to where I live now. Now I'm kind of expanded it, or
open it up.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. Maybe it's desperation. I don't know. But I'm pretty much open to, I'm going to call it relocating to almost any part of the country or potentially other countries, especially if it's in the northeast of the U.S. That would be the easiest. But I'm definitely okay with moving to pretty much anywhere at this point.
Wait, Adam, let me go back really fast to the headline thing on your LinkedIn profile. I am actually against, no offense, against people putting that in their profile when that is the main point of the headline. If it's kind of like an afterthought, then that's a little bit different. But if I were to immediately look at your profile, I'm going to be like, what does this guy do? Because your profile is taken up by the fact that you're looking for new opportunities versus just telling me what you do. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's another interesting one on here too, when when people are currently out of work, at least from an optics perspective, assume that people are consulting and doing other work. So positioning what you're currently doing, if you're doing continuing education, if you're doing anything else, to really further improve yourself while you're on that job search.
Right. Yeah. Are you primarily applying to jobs right now, just through like LinkedIn or Indeed or something, or how are you finding the jobs and how are you applying?
That is the primary process. I have connected with a few people through LinkedIn and then messaged them directly on some things. But the primary process has been through LinkedIn and other job portals like that. And in the past, it used to be, hey, I would just look at my emails and have maybe something posted on monster.com or things like that. And I would get really good contacts from people that actually had really good opportunities, and they were looking for me, and it worked out well, and I didn't have to put significant effort into it. And now that's not the case.
Yeah. Times have definitely been changing a bit, which is why I actually really love this platform right now, because it allows you to create community and it's not just focused on the job board, job search part of it. So I would highly encourage you to maybe just revamp that and start getting back into it with, meeting people that you don't know, because you don't know what happens behind closed doors. And people like us, we know organizations, and when they're looking to make a move or pivot and bring on some new people way before, the internet knows about it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head, Tab. It's about leveraging your network, and you have a pretty robust network, and you have to take advantage of it. I mean, carve out time each day to comb through your contacts. And I guarantee you're like, oh, I remember working with Sue over here or Mark at this company. Let me see what he's up to. We had a good relationship. I mean, you got to leverage that network. You got to think outside the box, a little bit non-conventional. Stop spraying and praying. Stop applying to everything, and being tactical and laser focused. And hopefully you'll start to see some good results. And Tab, just to go back, I do agree with you. Putting seeking job search or currently not working or whatever way you want to call it in the job title, it could be a lot of red flags for a lot of recruiters, especially when they're screening quickly. It could be a turnoff, and not just biases. I mean, there's a lot of biases in recruiting, and you want to put yourself in the best advantage to succeed.
Sure.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I can't speak for all recruiters, and I'm not at all trying to toot my own horn, but I know the way that I recruit, and I know that it's a bit different from some of the ways that other people recruit, but it's almost like I've had to learn the way that other people recruit so I can know the best way to give you the best advice. Because me telling you that most recruiters are going to look at your resume for 6 seconds, 10 seconds, that's the truth. That's not what I do, but that's the truth. And that's what you're going to run into a lot of times. So it's kind of educating yourself to know what they're looking for and to know what questions to ask. So I think more people should be talking to recruiters all the time, even when they're not job searching, to know, 100%. To get a handle on the market, understand what other people are looking for, what's most important. So, yeah.
So it sounds like kind of an important point of what you just said, you didn't exactly say this, but maybe it's part of what you meant is make sure I don't put up red flags or gates that stop them immediately before they even want to look any further.
Exactly.
Put yourself in that position to succeed. Like, don't give someone a reason to I say it all the time. Don't give somebody a reason to disqualify you without engaging with you.
Sure.
Right.
And that goes for your resume. That goes for your LinkedIn. That goes from your network. Like, put yourself in a position. And I almost say to take it back a little bit, and like any job search, and you could do it at any point, is a real audit. And that's what we're doing right now. It's an audit of that job search. And hopefully you have a trusted recruiter, people in your network who are going to give you good advice like this. And for people that don't, our job is to provide resources to help people out. And there's plenty of free resources out there. There's plenty of good people out there like Tab who are very generous with their time and are more than willing to help people.
Great. Well, I definitely appreciate the time you guys have already given me, and hopefully some good AT to get hopefully some other people are getting interested in not only you guys, but maybe there'll be somebody that's looking for somebody with my qualifications or skills. Now, actually, one thing I noticed is that almost all of the emails I do get from any of these recruiters lately have been looking for some incredibly specific set of technical skills that are, in some cases, there's probably like one guy that has that set of skills. So
that's an announcement right there. I mean, again, I don't know which skills you're speaking about, but if those are highly in demand skills, which you should be knowledgeable about in terms of what is in demand right now, go learn them. You're off right now. You're not. I understand there's plenty of online courses or ways that, you could go on YouTube or different things that you could at least be familiarizing yourself, even if you don't become an expert overnight in them. I used to work in IT, and this happened all the time. And this is what we told people, make sure you're up to date on the top, X amount of skills in your industry, so you're not behind the ball. And not that you have to be bleeding edge, but you want to be up there and understand what people are looking for. So those are really good insights for you to know if they're looking for those things, and also to know what's necessary, like what's really necessary, and also what could just be, okay, let's say they tell you they want you to be familiar with a certain program, but you don't know that program, but you know another program that's very similar. Connect those dots, because in IT especially, there's going to be a lot of recruiters who don't actually know that, for example, Java is a language, not a coffee. And so they might not know the correlation between your program that you use and the fact that it's basically the same as this other program. Sure. So you just have to know those things and then be able to connect the dots and say, oh, well, I don't actually know that, but I know this, it's close enough, and I can ramp up on this other thing.
Sure. Yeah, I guess
that's good.
Yeah, kind of back to the same topic there is a lot of, what I'm going to call probably better recruiters, like I think that you guys probably are, look for some of the things that might be called soft skills and think of that as important for putting the right person into the right position, rather than somebody that's just going to plug the hole for a second, somebody that's going to plug that hole and help the company move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And real quick tip here, coming from the audience here, Raymond Trumpower says, better to use a tagline of open to new possibilities. And I like that one. I think that's a good one versus looking. It's optics. It's about positioning. Open to new opportunities, possibilities. Doesn't mean that you're not working. And another piece too, and I assume that you already took care of this, on the back end on LinkedIn, you could choose to make yourself open to recruiters, open to job searches on your settings and profile page. That way, when recruiters are searching, it'll come to you. So that's just a little technical tidbit for anybody listening. I'm sure everyone's seen it all over LinkedIn that you could change the status there. All right, David, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, same thing. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to help you out whenever and where we can, dude.
All right, thank you, and we'll reach out to you later, Tabitha, as you suggest.
Yes. Send me a message, okay?
All right, great.
That's how we do it. Dave, have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, Tab. So we did it. We had two folks on today. We gave it a shot. I think it worked out pretty well. And this is the type of stuff that we do all the time. I mean, when you're a recruiter, you know, your candidates are not just assets. You don't look at them with just a dollar sign over your head. But the good recruiters really care about their people over everything, and to put people in a position for success and to care about them and make sure that they not just land in a job so you can get your commission check, but they're happy. All right. I mean, that's part of it's an overall experience. So just to go backtrack a little bit to some people who are talking here, Andy, I know we were going back and forth on tagging a little bit on LinkedIn, light tagging. I really don't do it too much. I do it for me. It's like, I do it a little bit more about relevancy. If I'm speaking specifically about a topic that like relates exactly to a certain person or a couple of people, I will, but I don't tag for the sake of it. That's just not something normally, and it's very sparingly, and it has to be very calculated and strategic. I don't like when I get tagged at things that aren't relevant. It happens all the time. I think Tab would agree there too. Raymond, thanks for jumping in.
Let me just add to that really fast, is that I just did this today, actually, promoting a new collection that I came out with for Strong Ass Mindset. And instead of tagging a bunch of people, I copied the link and then I just private messaged it to people and said, hey, you know, I know you've been a big supporter of Strong Ass Mindset, of people over everything, and kind of the inspirational, motivational side of things. And then I reached out to those people that I thought might actually care about what I was doing versus just blindly tagging paragraphs upon paragraphs of people. And that's behind the scenes. And then if they choose to take action, then great. And if not, then it's not something they're tagged in on their LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good approach too, right? And again, too, when you reach out to people with a post, like, as long as you're not doing it all the time, I'm not sending you a link just so you could like and comment on my post. That's not engagement potting. You know, we're talking about very strategic and mindful sharing there. Let's talk about Strong Ass Mindset for a little bit. Why don't you fill everybody in on what the cause is, kind of the abbreviated story behind it, and how we can help spread the word and drive some eyeballs.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you asking about that. So Strong Ass Mindset came about, probably maybe like 2 years ago now. I had colon cancer when I was 31. And so that's why I'm wearing blue today. I'm a survivor and just super grateful to be here. And so Strong Ass Mindset just came about because I had to develop a very strong mindset when I was going through cancer to get through it. And I chose positivity. I chose to stay in a certain frame of mind, regardless of the outcome. And that really carried over into every other part of my life. And so I just thought one day, you know, Strong Ass Mindset, it just popped up. And then somebody,
love it.
What's really funny is that I didn't realize at the time.
Great play on words. It's a good one.
And somebody was like, that's really cool. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually wasn't thinking that. And it's funny how our brains work. So yeah, I'm working on that right now, building that out. But I collaborated with Comfy Threads, Kyle Kumpf, and just love him to death. He helped me pull it together really quickly. And we are selling it. I am what I choose to become t-shirts. And all the proceeds are going to the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. And we'll be selling those through the rest of the month. So they will be for sale. And I have the link, or it's on my post today. So thank you.
That's awesome. And when we rebroadcast this show with the YouTube link, we're going to have all the other links underneath it as well. So Tab, let's wrap it up on a good note. What does Tab and Fam have planned for the weekend? What's on tap? What do you got going on?
Oh, well, we spent a lot of time away in February, so we're actually having dinner with my in-laws tonight, and just lots of family stuff this weekend. Baby shower for my sister-in-law and dance class for my daughter, friend time. That's what we do on our weekends is, I might work a little, but honestly, that's my time to really unwind with family and friends. What about you? What do you have going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. So, I mean, I just to get really tactical on it. I found a really unique kind of pocket of Saturday mornings that I found really interesting. My wife goes to yoga, and it happens to be the same time my son takes a nap. And during that time, I do one of two things. If my daughter's home or not on a play date or something, that's time just dedicated for me and her, alone time, daddy time, play time, or like sometimes she'll have a friend over, which works out really well. And I usually have a couple hours on a Saturday morning, which I found very effective for recruiting and candidate outreach. And getting a little tactical with recruiting here, you think about it, you're reaching out to candidates. A lot of people during the day, they're working, they're not going to respond. And that email goes further down into their inbox. So that phone call gets, delayed, and they have time to talk freely on the weekends. But for me, this weekend, what do I got coming up? We have a couple of friends coming over tonight, which is nice. It's the no babysitter fee night where your friends come over. Friends who don't have kids come over to us. That way I don't have to pay for a babysitter. It's like one of those things we talk about all the time. Like a movie ends up costing $200, right? You go to the babysitter dinner, the $30 movie ticket, it gets pretty pricey. So we're doing that tonight. Tomorrow, I got to do some stuff around the house. My daughter's selling Girl Scout cookies.
Oh, I want some.
If my brother and sister-in-law do not come by and pick up their box that's been sitting in my garage, I'll send over to you. I'm going to sell them half price and keep the money on that. And then, just hanging out, family and friends. I think we might go pay a visit to Odessa by the Sea, which is Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, New York, to see my wife's grandmother. Pay a visit over there on Sunday. But just hanging tight and, just keeping an eye on this thing for us to be concerned about, to be mindful about. I just implore everybody, to wash their hands and just be mindful and respectful of other humans out there. If you're sick, if you don't feel well, just keep yourself away and just don't put people at risk. I mean, just look out for each other. Let's nip this thing in the bud and, we can put it behind us and focus on life and what's important for all of us.
So many butt puns right there, and I just can't help myself.
That's not on this show. That's totally a different type of show. Tab, any closing thoughts? Are we anything aside from the awesome? Well, not aside. I mean, we talked about the awesome foundation and the work that you're doing there. And for anybody who doesn't know Tab, where could they find you? Where could they connect with you?
Yeah, I am mainly on LinkedIn right now, you guys. That's where I am. I'm going to be building out a website. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter, but most active on LinkedIn. So as Adam knows, and many of the people in the comments know, I love this community. And so I'm here to help in any way that I can. And just kind of clear the air on recruiters and what good recruiters do and help people ask the right questions and all that good stuff, because, the good recruiters, we're really here to help you. We really care about people. We really care about alignment. So I would just say, take some of the advice that we talked about today. And if you have any questions, let's chat online, offline, whatever it might be. So, yeah.
Awesome. And everyone following along, Hodger, James, Christine, Vardan, Travis Huff, my boy, I did his show today. Raymond Trumpauer. Who else we got? We got Sean, Andy, George, everyone else that I missed there. I appreciate Tab, and I appreciate everyone for joining. I think we're going to make this a frequent thing. I think it's fun to do. It's easy. Friday afternoons, usually a little bit lighter, and we'll try to do it again. Tab, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to do this with me today.
Thank you. I love this. I hope we do get to continue doing this and just help more people out. So I hope you have a fulfilling weekend, and everybody that's been listening along or that's going to listen to this after the live, have an awesome weekend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Awesome. And everyone listening and watching at home, please be sure to follow the full show at thepodcast.com. New and improved site. We got some great shows up. I got some great guests coming up next week on the live show. This is a big one, and it's going down next Wednesday. I have Jordan Paris and Hala Taha together, and we're doing a live three-way show on Podcasting 101. We're going to talk about where it works, what doesn't work, a whole show about podcasting. with two people that I absolutely adore and respect. Remember, take care of each other. Look out for one another. Cover your mouth. Wash your hands. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.